Always.
All right, tell me with the intro.
Good evening, and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Mississippi, my hometown. You know, each and every program you hear me call Mississippi my hometown. Because you know, it's something special about the place that you were born in. You have memories and you have ancestors that have paved the way for you in those lands. So at the end of the day, everybody wants their hometown to do good. So I want Mississippi to do good. We're going to talk about Mississippi and its current conditions and its status as this program continues. But first, let me thank our sponsors. To Earth Blend Coffee, we appreciate your commitment to this program and to this broadcast. Socrates Garrett Enterprises, Inc., we appreciate your commitment to this program. And those of you that send us a lot of well wishes and tell us how much you enjoy the program, and to our subscribers, we are deeply grateful for your support. And we want you to continue to support this program because we are going to bring you information that you won't find anywhere else. It's unfiltered and uncensored. So we believe Digital Broadcast Network. We're broadcasting live all over the world. My friends in China, in Russia, in Ukraine, in Nigeria, in India, are all watching this program. And we appreciate their involvement and their participation. When we look at our analytics, we see where you are viewing us from. And it's very, very encouraging. And we intend to get out even more in days to come. Don't forget, We Believe Radio. Go to live365.com. Search for We Believe Radio and enjoy the best music in the world 24 hours a day. Now, we're going to get right into our program. On yesterday, we talked about the candidates and some of their background and their accomplishments and achievements that they've enjoyed as they offer themselves up for mayor of the great city of Jackson, the capital city of the state of Mississippi, located in Hinds County, the largest county in the state of Mississippi. Now, Jackson happens to be 85% African American. That's black folk. 85%, that's a large number. We may, in fact, be the most diverse city in America because we have such a large number of African Americans in Mississippi. And that stands to reason because during the horrible days of slavery and slave trade, Mississippi was probably one of the states that required and needed more slaves than any place else. And that's why it was so hard abolishing slavery in the state of Mississippi. And even after it had been abolished, it was years and years and years before conditions changed for African Americans in this great state. Now, we made some great strides. We've come a long ways, but we had such a hole to dig ourselves out of. And so we still find ourselves, in many cases, somewhere near the bottom in categories that mean the most to us. For one, the economy. We are the poorest state in the nation. Now, you know, that's not a statistic that you want to have. You don't want to be number one when it comes to the economy and being the poorest state in the nation. You don't want that. You know, once upon a time, as I said earlier, a long time ago, Mississippi was probably one of the richest states in the world, importing and exporting cotton and other goods and services. Tremendous trade on the banks of the Mississippi River. You know, Mayor Flaggs over in Vicksburg, Mississippi, is an African-American mayor that is doing great things over there in that area. But what he has to do better is to build out his port so that cargo and goods and trade can occur right there in Vicksburg, Mississippi. That's only 40 minutes away from the capital city of Jackson. So we need those things to happen. Now we're going to talk about some other things if I can get this phone under control. Now, we talked about the candidates that were running, and I'll just run down through that list again and bring you up to date. A little reminder of what your choices are and why this is so critically important at this time. You know, in the poll that I mentioned, we had Mayor Chokwe Lumumba at 19% of the vote, Tim Henderson at 2.5% of the vote, John Horn at 32.9% of the vote, Delano Funches at 1.67%, James Hopkins, Zach Service, Albert Wilson, all at 0.42%. Kim Wade had 4.17%. Kim had 6.25% or 15 votes. Marcus Wallace at 4.17% of the vote. Chris Bell at 3.75%. Rodney DePriest at 2.92%. Bradley Lum at 1.67%. Kenneth I. Stokes at 20.83% of the votes. Socrates Garrett at 2.5% of the vote. And Ali Shamsuddin did not participate in this poll. Those were the candidates. That does not mean that they have qualified to run for the mayor of Jackson, but more than likely, you will see them qualified by 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. The deadline for qualifying for this office is January the 31st, I believe, at 5 p.m. I'll say 5. It may be 5:30, but I don't want to mislead you and you go down there and be 30 minutes late. So book it at 5 p.m. on tomorrow. You must turn your papers in. And so those are the candidates, and they bring a unique set of skills to this contest. But I said earlier, we're going to focus primarily on the three top vote getters. Mayor Chokwe Lumumba at 20%, John Horn at 32%, and Kenneth Stokes at 21%. Now, why am I focusing on that? Because this is some interesting statistics. And when you run the analysis and you look at who's doing what and what could happen, as I said earlier, that if Mayor Lumumba does not run for re-election, and if Kenneth I. Stokes does not run for the mayor's office, then it sends shock waves through these numbers. That means that anyone can win this race. It's a real horse race at that point in time. So because those votes, that 20, 40-some% of the vote will have lost a candidate, and who knows which way they will go. So it makes this contest very, very interesting. Now, I'm not going to talk about the skill set, and I'm not going to talk about the troubles that plague Jackson, Mississippi, and all of that. You hear that enough on the 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock network news. Always talking about the negative and the downside of who shot John and who's in trouble. And we don't do that here at We Believe. We talk about what's required to move the state and the city forward. Now, I understand that the governor gave his state of the state yesterday evening, and for many, they found it confusing because the governor was touting the billions of dollars that he's brought into the state. And quite frankly, there's been a great boost in this state from data centers. And the last announcement was there was going to be $1 billion investment in Meridian, Mississippi, because they were going to build a data center there. Google and the high-tech boys are building data centers all across the world. And that is because of the tremendous impact that AI, artificial intelligence, is having in this marketplace. And so this is a tremendous time to be involved in the economy as it reshapes itself. If you notice in the president's inaugural ball and on the TV news, it carried many of the high-tech giants that were standing with the president. No more did we have the CEO of U.S. Steel. We didn't see the CEO of Ford, the CEO of Chrysler. We didn't see the traditional corporations that had been the backbone of the American economy since the Industrial Revolution. Things are changing. We saw Amazon. We saw Meta. We saw TikTok. We saw all of the tech folk now that are in the room. Now, what that means, though, is that there are not going to be as many jobs that people who find themselves undereducated, older, are going to be able to do when it comes to tech. Our children know more about these phones and about computers than we do as adults. And so things have changed so dramatically, and we are being left behind. Now, we got to fix that because the population is too large to have that large of a segment unemployed or underemployed, frustrated, and discouraged. So we got to do some things about that. And so while the governor was touting the tremendous investment in the state of Mississippi, he did not reference the point that Mississippi remains a welfare state. What do I mean by that? Because we all know that Mississippi does not like welfare programs, that we all know that we try to purge the rolls of welfare as much as we can in Mississippi. While we are the poorest state in the nation, we have the lowest percentage of our population on welfare of any state in the country. That just does not resonate. That does not make good sense to me. How you can be that poor and yet have the lowest percentage of your population on federal subsidy in a poor state. You would think that you would be the highest number percentage-wise of people on welfare, but that's not the case. And in Mississippi, we've had some recent activities concerning TANF and all of those programs. And we're not going to get into that in this program, but those of you that are keeping up with what's going on, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, we are a welfare state. Now, what does that mean? That means for every dollar that we send to Washington, we get $2 and some change back. 40% of our revenue, now get this, 40% of our revenue comes from the federal government to run this state budget. So if you were to take welfare, food stamps, SNAP, and all of those other programs, WIC, etc., out of the economy in Mississippi, you would bankrupt the state. But yet, we act as if Mississippi doesn't want to expand Medicaid. We don't want welfare. We send back money for unemployment benefits. We didn't accept the Meals on Wheels program. We're like my granddaddy was. My granddaddy said when they brought the commodity cheese and the powdered milk, he said, we don't take charity. Now, we were as poor as you could get, but it was something in him that says, we don't take charity. And so he didn't take the commodity cheese. And many of us might have gone hungry had not it been for a working mother that had the largest garden in the world. Our garden was some 4 acres. And we planted everything that we wanted to eat was in that garden. In the wintertime, we'd go to that potato bank, which was built like an Indian teepee. It had a little door on it, and we would go in there and store those potatoes in there all during the wintertime, and we would go in there and extract them from the bank, and Mom would make a sweet potato pie. She would make a meal out of that garden that you can't even find today. For as healthy is concerned, we didn't have hamburgers. I've never seen a McDonald's until I was 20 years old. And so those kind of things we had to do. Now, Mississippi, though, let's get back there. Mississippi is a welfare state. And yet we find ourselves now supporting government and policies that restrict the welfare that we desperately need from coming into our state. So now we have this freeze that has occurred. And this policy of the Trump administration is just wreaking havoc in our communities and in our state. But there's going to be a big surprise here. I can tell you this, and I can recall back when Governor Barber decided that he was going to cut back on Medicaid in the state of Mississippi because he was going to eliminate some of the programs that were poverty programs. Well, what happened was that the Capitol got overrun by poor white people that were poorer than blacks in greater numbers. And he quickly realized that that was not going to be acceptable to the white community, and he had to back off of that policy. Now, the same thing is going to occur here. While the president is interested in removing all DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, while he's eliminating woke, while he's eliminating diversity goals and college goals for tuitions and admission, while he's saying that all of these programs need to be eliminated or put on hold because America now believes in merit, the merit system. You're only going to be rewarded for what you have produced. Not many people in our society are producers. We are historically the underclass, and we are consumers. And the poorer the state is, the greater the consumption and the greater number of consumers that you have and the fewer number of producers that we have in a great state. And that's why in Mississippi and in Jackson as well, you don't see any smokestacks. We got great weather. This is a great retirement community, but we don't have an economy. When the economy is bad in other areas, Mississippi's economy is the same. We don't boom nor burst. We're just poor. And we've been that way now since the abolishment of slavery. And so we're going to find that this freeze disproportionately affects individuals in poor states that depend upon this government subsidy, which props up their economy. And so those are the kinds of things that we're up against. Now, we're going to go to a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a few other things that are going to impact the quality of living in the city of Jackson in the coming years. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome back. We were broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. This is Socrates Garrett Live. We're having a lively discussion about the state of Mississippi, the state of government, who's running for elected office in Mississippi, and why this is the most critical time that we've experienced in a long, long time. You see, I know poverty. I know what that's like. I know what it means to not have enough to eat. I know what it means to not have tires, no tires on your wagon or on your car. I know what it means to not have fuel. I understand all of that. I know what it means to have to dress in hand-me-down clothes. I know all of that. I know poor people eating every part of the hog that was produced wasn't because it was a delicacy, because it was needed to survive. I understand all that, saw it. A friend of mine said they were so poor until their mother would line all the children up and take a bacon strip and dip it into the greens and let each one of them come by and they could suck on the bacon strip, but they better not bite it, so that they would get some semblance of meat, some semblance that there was some diversity in this meal. I understand poverty. I understand how it impacts you and how difficult it is to focus on anything positive when you're hungry, when you're broke. It's hard to think about a better day and a better time. So I bring that up because we are moving swiftly back to that time. Now, our children have not known that time. Our children are not prepared for that time. Our children don't know how to improvise and how to make quilts and how to feed themselves from the land, how to plant gardens, and how to have chickens, and how to hunt quail, and how to go to the lake and get a fish for the dinner tables. They only know how to go to Kroger. They don't know how to go to the barn and get eggs. They don't know how to go to the cow and get milk. They don't know how to churn the milk until it turns into butter. They don't know. They say, what is he talking about? They have no idea of how to make sausage. They ain't never seen a grinder. They don't know how to make syrup. They've never seen a grist mill. All of these things are required when your economy puts you back in a position where you don't have money or traditional means. And that's where we're headed. And that is being accelerated by these policies to freeze all things associated with the underclass or the underprivileged. Cut all that out. Cut all of that out, starve out that group of people, deport the other group of people that are here illegally, and let's get back down to a society that is smaller, that is affluent, that's wealthy, and that's ruling the government. We got difficult times ahead. Now, I want to shift a moment and talk about Jackson and government, because I listed all of these candidates for you, and I told you how they're doing. Now, this freeze, and when I tell you that Mississippi gets 40% of its revenue from the government, I don't think you get it. When the freeze occurs and the money doesn't come into our municipalities, which our cities in the urban centers don't get much support from the state because we're still involved in racism and bigotry and hatefulness. We're still fighting one another. And so when you don't have those resources coming into your city, a city like Jackson that's suffering tremendously from white flight and black flight, all of this occurred during the time when Mayor Harvey Johnson was first elected as the first African-American mayor. The outward migration of this great city started immediately because it was felt by many that they could not live under the government or the rulership of an African-American mayor. They'd rather move to the country and start over than to have someone like me or some darker-skinned person like Mayor Johnson as their leader. And so they start moving out. And then all of the industry followed, the finance community followed, and you see all of the insurance companies followed. And now you see even the medical market following. And remember, I told you that we don't have an economy, we don't have industry. There's not one smokestack in Jackson. So when all of your services start moving away, like the medical center and banks and insurance companies, you don't have anything left. What you got is a hole now in the donut. Everything around you is flourishing. Everything in the hole, in the side of the donut, is starving to death. High crime, poverty, poor streets, bad water. All of that is occurring. Now, why am I saying this? Because when we start talking about who's running for mayor, then you better have some answers to these questions. How do you turn these things around? I understand that if this is your first time as the wagon master, that you're going to learn on the fly. You got to fix the plane as you fly it. But these are critical times. It's easy to govern when there is a plenty. Anybody can run a city when it has an abundance of funds available to it where waste doesn't matter. Anybody can do that. But in times when the freeze reduces the funds that are coming into your city, and let's just think about it, EPA put $600 million in Jackson, Mississippi to fix this water problem. $600 million bypassed the state of Mississippi, and the reason they bypassed the state is because there was great concern that if they gave the money to the state, that the state would not allow it to get down to Jackson. And some history shows that it may be some truth in that, based upon the amount of funding that Jackson has received over the years. $600 million. Now, had President Trump been in office or had this freeze been in place, we wouldn't have got to $600 million. We wouldn't see anything happening with our water and wastewater, and as citizens are calling in now saying that raw sewage is bubbling up into the parking lots around grocery stores and restaurants, we wouldn't have a chance of fixing any of that without the federal government's help and without the federal government bypassing the state to get us the help and then put it into competent hands that knows what to do with it. So we didn't trust that Jackson had competent hands. Now, check this out. The federal government says, Biden as president says, I will send you $600 million, but I won't let you administer it. What a slap in the face. He said, I won't give you the keys to the vehicle to drive. I'll let you work on it, but you will have a white czar that I will appoint to come be over y'all. I will send you a white master to look over y'all because y'all don't have sense enough and you don't have the ability to manage the resources that I'm going to send down there to you. And I don't get that. I don't even like saying it myself. It irritates me when African-American mayors have run four of the largest cities in the world were being run by African-Americans, demonstrating we have the ability to run and manage things. Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, all African-American mayors. And a lot of other big cities. But yet in Mississippi, the cradle of the great civil rights fight, where poverty is rampant, and where you have high poverty, you're going to have high crime. And so Mississippi is probably listed as one of the most corrupt states in the nation, not because the people are bad, because they're hungry, because they don't have no economy. So they fight about the little things. Well, when you have a plenty, somebody takes $1 from you, you just brush it off and let it go. But if it's your last dollar, if it is the only dollar that you have, all hell's going to break out if someone tries to take it from you because you can't afford it. So we fight one another and we shoot one another. And there'll be those that'll say, we were always poor, we never killed one another. We had a different kind of poverty. Our poverty was different. We didn't have cars and clothes, but we had land owners. Blacks own lots of land, and if you own land, there are going to be trees there which are going to bear fruit, and there's going to be peaches and pears and apples and figs. And so you were not going to be hungry. So you didn't shoot and kill as much. Put you in this urban ghetto, surrounded by this fence that they put around all urban cities. They call them the bypass. 675 in Dallas and 485 in Atlanta and 220 in Jackson. Just bypasses to create an invisible fence to put urban people inside those fences. And then we withdraw the resources that go inside that fence. And then we wonder why we get all of this high crime. But you got to understand that times are going to get bad. Put the freeze on, withdraw the resources, give them the inability to fix the water and sewer system, and let's see what happens. Now, who you elect for mayor, I'm coming to the end of this show, but I want you to understand this. When I listen to candidates running for this office, I am discouraged because I don't hear the kind of things that lets me know that they understand where we are and what's happening And then I certainly don't hear the kinds of things that says, this is what we're going to do to fix that. What I hear more of is he stole this or she did that, or we turning on one another instead of turning to one another. That's exactly how you act when the resources so few until you turn on one another. But a great leader has to say that this is my job. This is the new description for the mayor of a great city. Listen carefully. The job of the mayor of a great city is not to fix your potholes, not to fix your water lines, not to fix your food desert, not to fix your broken education system. That is not the responsibility of the mayor, and yet we campaign on the ability to impact those things that are not in the job description. Because you don't know what's in the job description. The role of the mayor in this difficult times that we're in, where we don't have a plenty, is to create new revenue streams for his city to improve the quality of life. What do I mean? We gotta increase the number of rooftops in this city. We gotta stop the outward migration from this city, and we gotta bring people back into this city. We must visit every business that's in this city and say, what is it that you need? What can I do to improve your chances of hiring more people and being more profitable and doing the kinds of things that I need you to do in this city? I'm coming to visit each of you to understand your needs. My job is to make sure that you have an opportunity to employ my citizens. Government can't employ them. You see, when the president reduces government's ability to have funds, you have nothing left unless you understand how to build an economy that doesn't depend on government. And so the requirement of the mayor now is to say, I have to bring business and rooftops into my city. That's my priority. And I'm going to be gone 70% of the time, visiting with those that have the ability to put a plant in my city so that my people will have jobs and quality of life and a living wage. And I see what's happening to my citizens. When my state, and I happen to be in Mississippi, when my state says that we are touting economic development, but none for Hinds County, none for the 85% black diaspora that's in Hinds County. When we say we're going to put a data center in Meridian, that's following the same script that has been used time and time again. I tell you that we could make a difference if leadership understood their role and they spent their time every day and every hour that they have trying to fix those two things right there. Now, let me say this so that you don't get this twisted. The potholes have to get fixed. The water lines have to get fixed. And their mayor has to put competent people in position that know how to do that come into the job with a resume that says, this is how I fix potholes in other cities and towns and communities. This is how I fix the water lines and sewer lines. This is my engineering degree. This is my resume on how to do that. I don't know how to govern, but I know how to do this. I cannot surround myself with those that I endear myself to as friends and relatives. I cannot be concerned about the relationships of the position. I don't care what you think about me. I need a competent person in that job, and I gotta give you the reason, the ability to disagree with me to get some things done. And we're gonna be okay, because if you don't fix those potholes and those water lines and those sewer lines, you're not gonna be here very long. You won't be here very long. We don't have time. We operate just like a business. We operate like a professional football team or sports. If you don't win, don't expect to be retained. You got a specific job description. I need you to do that. And so those things are not going to get neglected under a skillful mayor. He just won't have it as his responsibility. So every time somebody talks about crime and what we're going to do about crime, the police chief has got to tell you what we're going to do about crime, because he was hired to fix that. I don't want to hear the mayor talking about poor education. The superintendent is hired to fix that. And people got to understand what their roles are, and then they got to be held accountable for fixing that. If not, it's like any pitcher that's having a bad day on the mound. When the coach comes to the mound, don't start no conversation. Hand me the ball and head to the dugout. Don't try to talk to me. Hand me the ball and head to the dugout. Somebody else is coming in. Look, it's tough times. These are hard conversations, but they must be had. Until we get back here and finish this dialogue, my time has run out. I want to thank again all of the sponsors and all of the subscribers that are supporting this network. Until we get back tomorrow, I want you to stay safe and have a good day.